resources. So most of it will be using websites. So I will zoom this up a little bit, but if you're standing at the back, if you're sitting in the back, you might want to move forward a little bit. So hopefully, what I'm going to be talking about today won't be too redundant for those of you who were here last semester or then done a little bit of research, but just some highlighting some stuff that's important. So obviously we know where the talked about where the library is this morning at Calcutta House. You get through the ground floor. How many of you are familiar with the subject guides that are through the library website? Any of you used that before? So just going through the universe, so you know to get into the library webpage through Metronet. What there is a list of subject guides and librarians, all alphabetically. So the subject librarian for sports management is Carmel Carroll. Did any of you meet Carmel last semester? This semester. So she's in charge of sports management. She has a much broader remit. She does a number of other programs, events, tourism. But she's the subject librarian. She's really helpful in terms of doing some one-on-one research skills activities with you. And Carmel's the person who put together the resource page for sports management. So if you go into this, can you see that at all from the back? I need to zoom it up some more. So there's a bunch of material, identifying where you can get books, shelf mark that's going to be relevant, and again within the various topics, as well as the 796s, the general sports section. There you'll find material in 306.4s for sociology and sport, sports tourism, sports marketing you'll be familiar with its own section. Planning, facilities, design again have their own sections. And one of the best ways of doing some preparatory research when you're just getting into a subject, when you've got a question like this and thinking about where do I start, is literally just go to the library, find the relevant section and just start browsing through books. You know, yes, there's a whole lot of really good electronic tools that help you find stuff, but actually going, just looking through, looking some of the more recent books or topics that interest you. Because one of the problems with electronic searching is, you know, works on keywords, and you tend to only find exactly what you're looking for, which that seems that's what you're after. But often the stuff that's really useful is the stuff that you kind of find almost serendipitously. The stuff that you're not actually looking for, and suddenly, oh, wouldn't have thought of that, but that's interesting. And looking through books you don't have to sit there and read every book. You know, it's smart searching through books. It's looking at tables of contents, looking at the indices at the back, looking for keywords. But often it's something like picking up a book, table of contents, and suddenly, oh, that interests me, or that looks relevant, I'll have a look at that, which you might not have struck on if you were just relying on keyword searches. So one of the best things I can recommend is just spend some time at the library there, just thumbing through, finding material. So there's a list of the online sources you could be utilising, and again some of these should be jumping out. European Sport Management Quarterly, Journal of Sport Management. Any of you used leisure studies before? It's a much broader word, doesn't just relate to the sports industry, it relates to other fields of leisure. It can be a little bit hit and miss, but they do, it is quite highly regarded, you know, so there's a lot of there might be a lot of material there, but the stuff that's there is often pretty good. And again, some of the material might not relate directly to sport, but it can be applied to other areas of the leisure industry. So you might say, well, that's equally important to the sports management, the sports business. So it's worth having a look for. So those you'll probably be familiar with: European Journal of Sports Management, but things like the International Journal for the History of Sport, International Review of the Sociology of Sport, two other works that actually go quite broader. Certainly, International Review for Sociology of Sport will be quite useful, often picking up on some of the issues we'll be talking about in this module. Things like technology, we have the technological side of that, we have the marketing, the business side of that, but we also have sociological perspectives on the role of technology in sport. Depending how you view technology, you can start looking that into things like doping is kind of at one level of that, physical changes to athletes, and again, sociology addresses a lot of those things. So there is quite a broad number of journals. Some you'll be familiar with, but it is worth perhaps spending some time. Again, just all of these are, you can search these keywords, use the library databases, but again, just doing the old-fashioned way. As I was a student, it was finding the stacks in the library, going to the journals and just clicking through to see what had been published. So have a look at the sociology of sport. Look at all issues. This is what I still do, though there's a whole lot of digital searches and I use those as well. Just coming back to this is quite useful. Here, just looking. Once you're in the site, it's pretty quick just to get through, look at what's... And again, this gives you an idea of what are the key issues. And again, so this is the review for sociology of sport. We're going to be doing that. So there's a whole range of things, but here, consuming sports media, producing sports media, looking at sports blogs. So if you're looking at digital media as one of the themes you're looking at, this is an example that although I don't think sociology equals management of business, it is related there. So there's a lot of stuff you can get through these. Or sustainability within sports management might be an issue that you would choose to pick up. So again, you've got the opportunity to develop an argument quite broadly. So it might seem quite an old-fashioned way of doing it, but actually it tends to be quite efficient, and particularly at the early stages where you're just really forming ideas. It's just what's out there. And rather than narrowing yourself down by critical issues, sports management, they may not use some of the terms, you miss one term. So an old-fashioned search like this is really useful. So links to other libraries, and I'll talk about the British Library in a moment. Also databases, including databases for journals. Many of you used any of the databases for last year? Which database did you use?
Business Source Complete.
Yep, so Business Source. Anybody else use any of the?
Development.
Which one?
Development, like within researchers for development.
Oh. Yep, and what specific database can you remember? So I say again, there's a whole range that the university subscribes to, but yes, Business Source Complete. So journal, if you look at, they've got Journal of Leisure Resource, Journal of Sport Tourism. Emerald is quite useful, and Ingenta Connect as well tends to be quite good for getting. And then you've got some other publisher-specific ones like Sage. Just show you Agenda Connect. One of the only drawbacks of this is not everything that's on Agenda Connect is subscribed to by the library. But you might do a search, for instance, digital media sport. So one of the advantages of databases, it does throw up as well as places you might look, in this case the International Journal of Sport Management and Marketing. We've got here was a journal, Information, Communication and Society, which is not necessarily a sports-specific journal, but again, that's where databases come in. But you'll see, it's not owned by the library. It's one of the issues with some of these publications. However, I'm going to show you the British Library a little bit later. But again, often the problem with searches is you don't always get stuff that's relevant as much as you find stuff you're not going to get. Stain resistance is part of image performance for consumer digital inkjet and thermal imaging systems. Why? Digital media and sport throws that up, but it does. So you do have to be very patient. Whatever system you use, you often need to go through a lot of pages. Yeah, I was getting on this, or even something as basic as Google Scholar. You need to go through until the page, until you've got 5 or 6 pages that have thrown up literally nothing that's relevant. Then you might say stop. But they do throw up, as well as the good stuff, there is quite a whole lot of other stuff floating around that's not necessarily relevant. So I'll leave some time at the end if anyone wants. I know some of you guys have done this already, done this last year, so I don't want to kind of bore you with it. But I'll leave some time at the end for people to come and see me if they want me talking through these things in a little bit more depth. You might look at emerging regions for sports, and again, so Middle East. And again, you'll find material there, but again, you get stuff thrown up, the development of tennis in Britain, so it's not always, key thing is you need to be very patient with these, and you need to play around with whole lots of terms and terminologies. Sports, the names of individual sports, be aware of different spellings, Americanizations, for instance, globalization is spelled either with a Z or an S or a Z. Often it's really worth searching for both because something that basic can throw the searches out. So these databases are a useful, quick way of finding material once you and again, as you're starting to specialise. And again, these are all through the library and then through the sports management page. And again, it's worth looking at a variety of different databases. They look at different journals, for instance. So again, going back to one of our earlier searches we looked at. Again, so a variety of materials here, again with more access. So that's some of the sources we've got through the university library, and again going in specifically the sports business through the sports management subject page. How many of you use Google Scholar?